All right, let's get into this. I want you to imagine something. You wake up one morning and someone tells you that by sunset, you're not allowed to speak your own language anymore. It's just over. That is the incredible premise of Alphonse Daude's classic short story, The Last Lesson. And today, we're going to break down how one totally normal school day turns into this unforgettable lesson about identity, regret, and what happens when a piece of your culture is stripped away. So, we experience this whole story through the eyes of a little boy named Franz. And his day starts with a problem I think we've all had. He's running late for school, plus, he's absolutely dreading a quiz on participles that he completely forgot to study for. The sun is shining, the birds are out, and honestly, he thinks about just playing hooky. It really feels like any other school day. But it wasn't, not even close. As Franz starts hustling toward town, he begins to notice that the whole vibe is just off. Things aren't the way they're supposed to be. And he starts picking up on these really unsettling clues. First, he sees a crowd of people huddled around the town bulletin board. Now, for the last 2 years, this board has been nothing but bad news. Lost battles, draft notices, that kind of thing. Then, when he gets near the school, it's just silent. Normally, the place is buzzing with noise, right? But today, it's dead quiet, like a Sunday morning. All that familiar chaos is just gone. And when he finally sneaks into the classroom, it gets even weirder. His teacher, Mr. Hamill, isn't mad at him for being late. Instead, the man is dressed in his absolute finest. A fancy green coat, a frilled shirt, and this little silk cap. I mean, this is the outfit he only breaks out for super important days, like inspections or when they hand out awards. But here's the real shocker. Those benches in the back of the classroom that are always empty, today they're filled with the town's elders. We're talking the old mayor, the retired postmaster, all these respected figures just sitting there silently, looking incredibly serious. Franz has no idea what's happening, but you can feel it in the air. Something huge is about to go down. And that's when M. Hamel stands up to speak, and the whole mystery is solved in a single, gut-wrenching sentence. And just like that, everything clicks. This isn't just some special day. It is literally the last day they will ever be taught in French. A new teacher is coming tomorrow to teach them German. This is it. This is the last lesson. For Franz, it's like being hit by lightning, a total shock. And suddenly, all those weird things he saw, the crowd at the bulletin board, the strange quiet, his teacher's fancy clothes, the elders in the back, it all snaps into focus, pointing to this one awful truth. So you might be wondering, why is this happening? Well, here's a little context. The story is set right after the Franco-Prussian War, a war that France lost. Because of that defeat, 2 French regions, Alsace and Lorraine, were handed over to Prussia. So this order from Berlin, it's not just a change in school rules. It's an act of cultural occupation. And in that instant, language stops being this abstract thing you learn in school and becomes this very real, very painful loss. And with that comes a wave of regret that hits everyone in the room. This is where we see a huge shift in Franz. It's amazing. A few minutes ago, his school books were just heavy, annoying things he had to carry. Now that he's losing them, they feel like old friends. The very lessons he used to ignore suddenly seem precious, and he's just filled with regret for all the time he goofed off. But what's really interesting is that M. Hamill doesn't just put the blame on the kids. He stands up there and basically says that everyone in the room, himself included, is responsible for taking their language for granted. And he lays it all out. He says the students are to blame for always thinking, I've got plenty of time, I'll learn it tomorrow. He says the parents are to blame for caring more about their kids earning a little extra money on the farm than getting an education. And then he even blames himself. He admits he would sometimes send the kids to water his flowers or just give them a day off so he could go fishing. And it's during this final lesson that M. Hamill gets to the real heart of the story. This powerful idea that a language is so much more than just a way to talk. He tells them that their language is beautiful and that they have to protect it. Because, he says, when a people are conquered, as long as they hold on to their language, it's like they have the key to their own prison. I mean, what a metaphor, right? Your language is your identity, and as long as you have that, you have the tool you need to one day be free again. And here's the beautiful irony. That grammar lesson on participles, the very one Franz was dreading, he suddenly understands it perfectly.
For the first time, he's listening with every fiber of his being, and his teacher is explaining it with a patience he's never shown before. In this one final hour, school becomes everything it was always supposed to be.
As the lesson goes on, Franz hears pigeons cooing outside on the roof, and he has this wonderfully innocent but incredibly sharp thought. He asks himself if the new rulers will try to make the pigeons sing in German too. It's such a kid thing to think, but it cuts right to the heart of how unnatural and absurd it is to try and force a culture to disappear. And now we're at the end of the lesson. You can feel the emotion in that little schoolroom just getting heavier and heavier, building up to one of the most famous endings in all of literature. The church clock strikes noon. At that exact same moment, the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers start blaring outside the window, a loud, brassy reminder of their new reality. M. Hamel stands up. He's incredibly pale. He opens his mouth to say something, but he's so choked up with emotion that he just can't speak. So, since his voice has failed him, he turns to the blackboard and grabs a piece of chalk. And using all the strength he has left, he writes in huge letters for everyone to see, Vive la France, which means long live France. It's his last lesson, a completely silent but unforgettable act of defiance. After he writes the words, he just leans his head against the wall, completely spent. Without saying another word, he simply makes a gesture with his hand. The message is clear. It's over. School is dismissed. And that final, powerful image really leaves us with a question to chew on. This story shows us that a language is never just a collection of words. It's a history, it's a culture, it's a home. And it really forces you to ask, how many precious things do we take for granted every day? And do we have to get to the point of losing them before we finally realize what they're worth?